Hello, my name is James Brady, and I wanted to discuss the history of social work, particularly the history after 1968. And 1968 was a important year because that was the year of several different radical movements that occurred in our country, and this was right after the Marxist era, where people were they were joining these radical movements that they felt strongly about these groups, and they were becoming strong as groups, and they were being heard because that was the voice that they had, and they were creating change, or so they thought. What social workers could have done that we didn't do, because we didn't get a lot of things implemented when we should have after that time, because before that there was no way for us to speak out because it was kind of a Marxist time period. But at this time, 1968, you had the civil rights movement, you had the anti-war effort, you had the Watergate situation, you had the flower children, you had different radical movements that wanted to do certain things with the country, and they were very strong and they were very opinionated and they had power. Social workers had power at that point too, but not the way they took it. I believe we didn't get a lot accomplished because I think what happened was, or I know what happened was, social workers actually got into the ideology of these radical movements themselves individually, and didn't stay focused on the main goal, which is the betterment of humankind in general and the different platforms of social work that can carry on into the future. These radical movements that are strong and that are almost like fire, they are fire, and they also fizzle out and they burn out like fire. So when a social worker or a social work platform gets involved in one of these radical movements and they start making change in that movement, i.e. the Civil Rights Act, the housing for Black Americans, and that's wonderful and all. However, what happens with that is then it doesn't get done because to the level where it should have in general for the general population, because that radical movement started to fizzle out, whether it be with the different implements of different the different platforms and parties being voted in, or whatever. What I'm saying is these radical movements will fizzle out and leave you with a social work platform that's connected to them. When it's connected to something that's fizzled out, so goes the money. The money gets fizzled out, and the care and the focus gets fizzled out on that social program as well. So my theory is, after that disappointing spark that didn't spark for social work programs and such after 1968, I believe we have a time now in 2025 to redirect our knowledge on what history has told us. And if you look and see what's going on in the world, I mean, unless you bury your head in the sand, and if you're a social worker, then that's not a good place to be. You kind of need to know what's going on with politics, because it's the thing that guides social workers and gives us the ability to, have the programs that we need and the funding that we need from the government to help people or to do our jobs. So now is the time to get focused and not get caught up with radical movements that have occurred recently. We had radical movements going on with George Floyd. We had radical movements with the trans rights, sexual rights. We had movements that people had strong opinions about gays. I'm a gay man. I have a strong opinion about that. But these radical movements are now fizzling out and becoming part of the side that the society's not focused on. And with that being said, social work needs to grab on right now on the things that they are focusing on, which are destroying these social programs that are already implemented, such as SNAP. There's been a big change to SNAP and how you can get it. There's been a big change to healthcare. That's coming up pretty soon. But right now is a great time to implement some programs and get involved with senators and get involved with Republicans and find out how this affects them too. Because if you do that and you don't get caught up on these radical movements and trying to fight a fight that's inevitably not the hot issue right now, you're going to miss the opportunity to start some programs that can be really worthwhile. So I think that right now is the time. It's time to, find out who your senators are, find out who speaks for you in Congress, start making phone calls, start writing letters, and find out how you can help them, find out how it affects them as well. Because this is social work has to be a common area where when you need funding and when you need grants from the government, it needs to be the government, they need to want to do it. It needs to be voted on by people, because if it doesn't get voted on by people and they don't think it's necessary, look what happens. It gets thrown to the wayside. And a lot of stuff has been thrown to the wayside. But right now is our opportunity to do our part and get some of those things back. So we have a fresh start. Anyway, that's my discussion on the history of social work since 1968, and I believe that we have hope for the future. Hope is always going to win with me. So thank you so much. James Brady.